Happy holidays, everybody. Good to be with you as always. Please sign up for the retreat if you haven't already. Our December retreat, Christmas retreat, will be starting next Monday, the 26th, so the day after Christmas, Monday through Wednesday. Will be a grace-filled opportunity, a wonderful time to come together, to meet in love. To meet in love. Okay. And so tonight, someone emailed me a question about what does it mean to live a realization? How do I live from the awakened mind, the awakened heart? How do I live from this space? And so I'm going to invite you all just to close your eyes. And let us start with this question. What is love? Do I know love? And I invite you to open your consciousness. So to get out of your thinking mind. And I invite you to find the direct experience of love in your heart, in your body, right now. And so I'm not looking for a philosophical understanding of love or philosophical definition. All of you that are tuned in are spiritual beings. I invite you to look into your experience. And see if you can find love in the here and now. Many great saints and sages throughout history have said that all is love. Said that the self is love. What I am is love. Your consciousness is love. And so I invite you to let go of any mental thinking, any mental egoic identification, to feel into your body right now. Give you a little hint that love is much easier to find in the space of your heart than it is in the space of your mind. But I will contradict myself and acknowledge that love is everywhere. In the mind, in the heart, in the belly, in the pelvis. And to really ask yourself, well, what is love? What is love? Is love simply a feeling? That's often what we're taught, that love is simply a feeling. Can love be here if you feel pain in your body? If you have a busy mind? If you're hurting? So what is love? As you open your heart and feel as you experience directly, do I know love directly, experientially? Do I know love is the very fabric of my nature? The very fabric of this universe. And so as we begin to breathe and open, I invite you to soften your heart and just see if you can find the presence of love as the very fabric of your heart. Feel this innate tenderness, innate goodness, gentle sense of compassion as you breathe in and breathe out, and just smiling, giving yourself permission to know yourself as love. And for many of us, it's quite easy to know love, to experience love. If you just bring your attention to the space of the heart, the seed of love. And now I'm going to invite you to do something different. I'm going to invite you to find a point of pain in your body, whether that's in your belly, or your throat, your pelvis, your back, or see if you can find a point of physical pain. And as you feel into that directly, the physical pain, and as you sit and you open to physical pain, is physical pain not also made of love? It might be much, much harder to feel, to experience. But you tell me. If you open into physical pain and experience it directly, the very fabric of sensation that sometimes we might label pain, and you see that this fabric is also made of love and could be experienced as love. That this very sensation is radiant, alive, full of light. And don't be too discouraged if that's hard. You can just smile and open and play with that and see if you can experience this thing that this funny guy is speaking about. And as you feel into the space of your mind, and just allow any old thought to flow through. If you look at that thought directly, if you open to that thought, whatever it is, can you experience that thought directly as love? You see that that thought is made of love and is not a problem. Whether it's a good thought or a bad thought or negative thought or positive thought. Can you open and see that this thought is love? And if you feel into your emotional heart or your emotional body, if you remember or imagine or just if you're carrying any pain right now, emotional pain, can we open to that pain? Without thinking about the story, but just feel the pain directly. And can you see? Can you feel? Can you open experientially? See that this pain, this emotional pain, is radiant, is alive, and is made of this energy of love. It's made of light. You open and not judge your experience and see that love is everywhere. That love is everywhere. Again, we can come back to the question, what is love? What is love? How do I know it directly? Do I experience myself as love? Do I know this truth that all is love? And with that, you can just gently open your eyes, if you like, if you like. I'm going to invite everyone to see this guy. Can everyone see this guy? Who is this guy? It's a funny looking fella, huh? Once upon a time, this guy, he had a baby, and you see, he really loves his daughter, and he can feel this love. Just this immense love between him and his daughter. And often this is what we're taught, that love is like this energy that dances between one human being and another, a significant human being. In this case, my oldest daughter. I'm going to say something that's not politically correct, maybe offensive, but I'm just going to say it. But I found this picture, and I showed it to my daughter, my oldest daughter, and she said, "Dad, I had no idea that when I was a baby, I was kidnapped by the Taliban." And I thought, oh, geez. Well, sometimes, when I used to be a super hippie, I've been called Osama before, just because of the hair I had and the beard. Again, I hope that's in no way offensive. I don't mean it as offensive. It's just sometimes hippies look like, folks from Afghanistan, with big beards and lots of hair. So, anyways, often we're taught, culturally, that love is a feeling. And one of the most frustrating things for me as a teacher is to try to convey, this one truth. I'll split it into two truths. That love is not a feeling. Realization is not a feeling. Realization is not a wonderful feeling, true spiritual realization. You may feel wonderful when you begin to open and know yourself as love. You may feel wonderful as you open and step into the realm of realization. But love is not a feeling. It's like enlightenment is not a feeling. Feelings come and go. Feelings come and go. Now, sometimes as a father, we have a great love for our children. And it's a love that doesn't come and go. I'm going to speak from my own personal experience. Now, I'll just keep it simple. So I'll speak from my experience that, my love for my children doesn't come and go. It's solid, whether my children are being kind or being mean. This little baby here, she's been quite mean to me at different times in her life, at different times, the teenage years, of course. When she was young, she was sweet as could be, and I loved her when she was sweet. And as she grew into being a teenager, and now as a 21-year-old, as she individuates, and sometimes she's mean or rough or harsh, I still love her. I love her whether she has the flu or she's gotten an A+ on her test, whether she behaves or misbehaves. Love is here. Love is here. It's this unshakable bond. It's unshakable presence. Now, again, often we get in trouble when we speak about the presence of love because we often attach a feeling to the word presence. And many of us, we love when we feel good. We don't love when we feel bad. If we feel expansive and loving, their mind is clear, we might call ourselves awake. We might call ourselves realized. Again, love is not dependent upon how we feel. It's not dependent upon having a good day. Now, the feeling of love may come and go, just like the feeling of realization may come and go. But a feeling is different than the actual thing. Everybody likes to feel good. Everyone likes to feel love. Like when you feel love, you feel great. You feel whole, you feel complete, you feel total. If it's true love, like spiritual love. If it's human love, often we feel incomplete. We need someone to complete us. That's not love. That's desire. That's wanting. That may be called being in love with someone. And so it's very important on the spiritual path that we understand that love is not a feeling, that realization is not a feeling, that freedom is not a feeling. But rather a perspective. It's a perspective. It is a ground upon which one stands. And the recognition that the ground and oneself, in fact, all of life, it's the same ground. It's made of the same ground. That this ground is here eternally, always. Again, on a good day or a bad day. Like today, it's a very cold day. Very cold day. The ground is the ground, whether it's hot or whether it's cold. And so one of the great questions on the spiritual path is, how do I find the ground? How do I realize myself as the ground? How do I become the ground? And I will tell you, it is not through identification with emotional feelings, ecstatic feelings. Feelings come and go. We wake up, we know love through experiencing oneself beyond feeling. Beyond feeling. So what is here that is beyond feeling? Like the very thing that hears my voice. What is that thing? Because you'll hear my voice and you will receive this moment, whether this moment feels really good or really bad, whether things feel really good or things feel really bad. Like I can tell you right now, actually all day today, like I threw out my back and was in a ridiculous amount of pain today. But if pain has the ability to take away my realization, then what is realization? Realization is just a feeling. But is there something here that cannot be taken away by how you feel? So what is that? What is that thing? Who is the one who is awake and aware? And what is the very fabric of that which is awake and aware? What is the very fabric of that which is awake and aware? Like, what is the very fabric of that which is awake and aware? What is it? So when we become more interested in this, in the recognition of the fabric of what you are, what I am, what life is, what samsara is, what nirvana is, what pain is, what pleasure is, you begin to see that everything is made of the same fabric. Now, egoic identity likes certain fabrics and doesn't like others. So it likes fabrics that feel good and doesn't like fabrics that feel bad. The one who's awake sees that all of life, including oneself, is made of the same fabric. And this fabric is spacious, is peaceful, is radiant. Is intelligent. Is dancing with light. Everything in creation is dancing with light. This dancing light is love. Is love. And this dancing light is in the heart of pain, the heart of cancer, the heart of sickness, old age, and death. It's in the heart of beauty, and goodness, and compassion. So in order to realize love in a permanent way, we have to pay attention to it. Pay attention to the fact that it is always here. It's always here. It is here. Like love is here, not that love came from somewhere to here, but love is here. Like all of here is love. All of here is made of light, is made of intelligence, it's made of space. And has at its core its innate, radiant, compassionate presence. Even if you can't feel it, even if you can't see it, even if it seems paradoxical or when one is awake, when we step into this greater perspective, a perspective that's not defined by walls, which is how the ego sees life. It sees life through the lens of walls and this program of chasing things that feel good. When we see life without walls, when we look around, we see love. We experience love. We know love. Even in hell. Even in hell. And so, someone emailed me a question about realization, and see if I can pull it up. Hi, Craig. My ongoing question is simply a request. Please say more on how to stabilize awake awareness in the midst of daily activities, including both ordinary physical activities like cooking, cleaning, shopping, etc., as well as occasions involving work and relationship challenges. Well, a great question. If we're looking at realization, again, realization is a perspective where you see that all of life is the ground. So you stay with the ground. You stay without walls. So what does it mean to stay without walls? Well, if you're in your head, in your thinking mind, there'll probably be no realization. There might be a sliver of a realization, but probably no realization. So the fundamental mistake people make is they believe their thoughts and they believe their emotions to be reality. And so if you want to be realized, you do not allow thoughts or emotions to define this world. In fact, you step back and allow the world to be undefined. And so to put bluntly, you stay out of your head and you come into your direct experience. If you come into your direct experience, if you join me in direct experience right now, and just notice what is here. If you stay with the directness of this moment, you notice there's space here, right? Space. There's light. This quiet, radiant love. This immediacy. How to stabilize awake awareness. You stay with the immediacy of life. Because as soon as you go into your thinking mind, we go into a world where we're commenting on life. We're not living life. I'm going to use a hockey game as an example here. If you watch a hockey game on TV, the one who's living in reality are those individuals down there on the ice. The ones who are in a divided reality are those fellows with those big microphones, wear the suits, and they comment on the game. They comment on the game. They're not living life. They're commenting on it. They're speaking about it. And so one of the things I love doing is doing the dishes. And so when I do the dishes, I don't have a thought, oh, there's so many dishes. This is too many dishes. I don't like dishes. Dishes are dirty. I'm this vast empty space, and vast empty space picks up a plate and scrubs it. I don't think, I don't judge, I don't assume. And so the mistake people make with ordinary life there's a million mistakes people make. One, they, like with cooking and cleaning and shopping, like we look at life as a problem. Like all these things could very easily be seen as a problem. Cooking, cleaning, shopping, working, relating, relationship, challenges. So if we want to be awake, there's no problem. We have to live in a perspective where we see life for what it is, that it is not a problem. So all of us here have incarnated into an evolutionary world. Now, our thinking mind spends the entirety of its life looking for problems. When we can't find any problems, we create problems. We create problems. It's the mind, the ego creates problems. It's just a program that runs in us that looks at the environment looks for problems. I live in an old house right now, and when I used to be a builder, and I walked into a house and I'd see the cracks and and the places where there was missing trim, and if I saw something broken, in a house, my mind would start making a list of all the things to fix. Like that used to be one of my jobs, is walk into a house, look for problems, and then someone would pay me to fix all those things, to fix those things. And so the question is, can you live in a way where you don't believe in problems? Where you just see life for what it is? And if we want to stay in this state of awake awareness, we respond from the quiet intelligence of awake awareness, which is a much different type of intelligence than like our intellectual thought, rational thought. Awake awareness responds to life from an otherworldly intelligence. It's an intelligence without thought. It just moves through one. And so in order to live life in this way, you have to be radically open and radically trusting. How to stabilize awake awareness in the midst of daily activities. We cannot assume we know what life is. When we assume we know what life is, when we think we know what life is, when we judge it, when we attack it, when we condemn it and criticize it for being how it is, all we're doing is putting up walls between us and the direct experience of life. And so can we live in a way where we don't take on the perspective of a certain character who's guarded and defended against life? And so I could say this in a positive manner. What do we take on? We step into the direct experience of space, of love, of peace, trust, of intelligence, of openness. And we choose to live from this place. When I do the dishes, I do not complain. And in a funny way, my wife complains. And she says, "You're always doing the dishes." She wants me to come hang out with her on the couch or something. If I step in my human character, I say, I never heard of a woman who complained when a man does dishes. Never heard of that. Never heard of that. And I stay in the space and forgive her for having her want and her desire. That's different than what's happening. Most people would be happy to have me come over and do all the dishes. And so in regards to relationship, if your partner is complaining or whining, and we need to call the wambulance, we don't call the wambulance. We step back and we see them. We see them truly from the space of love. And when someone's complaining and whining, and the wambulance needs to be called, if we stay in our direct experience, it's very easy to be compassionate with that person. Say, oh, They're suffering. Maybe they need a hug, and they don't need the ambulance. They need a hug. They need some affection. Maybe they just need to be heard. Because I am the space is always hearing. I just allow the space to do what it does. I allow love to do what it does. I allow peace to do what it does. If you want to stabilize awake awareness, if there's any you there, let that you get out of the way. Let that you trust. Like this evening, the you that is Craig, and was in so much pain, he started to squirm and didn't know what to do because he was in so much pain. That you showed up here and opened and began to explore the pain. And when you begin to explore the pain, you see, like, do I know what pain is? Do I know that pain is bad? Do I know that it should not be here? So one of the ways of stabilizing awake awareness is through questioning the no. The ego just lives in this way where it's saying no to life. And what if saying no to life, we have said open to life? When you open, we're not dividing. When we open, we are including. And so to put bluntly, how to stabilize awake awareness, stay in your direct experience. Direct experience of true nature. So we shift our attention from the contents of our mind. We keep our attention on the context. Again, in this moment, spacious, it's radiant. It's this love here, which radically includes all of life. You cannot separate space and love. Space radically includes, what is love if it's not a radical inclusivity, radical allowing? It even allows non-allowing. It's so inclusive. It even allows pain. It even allows heartache. It even allows disaster. And so I've said this more times than I can count. One of the great things I did, it wasn't my idea, but I'll just say that, like, a great thing I did, beneficial thing I did in response to this question was when my teacher asked me, what's here right now? I said, there's space, there's peace, silence. He said, good, place your attention there. I didn't even say, okay, I just did it. I just placed my attention directly on the space. The human mind is not trained to pay attention to space. It's trained to focus on this, focus on objects. So we focus on objects. And when an individual focuses on objects, we see that there's a me and then an object. Me and an object. And so it makes two or three, or it makes what Dogen called the 10,000 things. But when you step into openness, me And this is one. Even though it's two, it's one. So can we allow ourselves to experience all of life without walls? And so we have to begin to play these games where you place your attention on the immensity of life, instead of placing attention on how am I feeling? Am I feeling good or am I feeling bad? Not feeling good. I need to feel better. What do I need to do to feel better? I should do A, B, C, and D to feel better. You know, if that person yesterday wasn't so mean to me, if I didn't, what did I do today? If I didn't pick up that kettlebell the way I did, I wouldn't have hurt my back. You know, some people, they talk to themselves, they judge themselves, they attack themselves. So all this commenting on ourself, on our life, on commenting on others, we want to be awake and aware always. Can you try to live without commenting? Can you step into a space where commenting does not exist? We just experience life as it is. Commenting, most of the time, it doesn't really do much for us. It certainly divides us, though. And so to stay in the direct experience, that would be the simplest answer, is to stay in your direct experience. To be the one who is experiencing. Who is experiencing. Okay. So, I would invite some questions, and if anyone new has a question, I can bring it forward. I invite the questions to be very clear. I say this every time, and people start talking and saying all kinds of things. I invite the question to be clear. I invite you to stay with your experience. Forgot to say this in the beginning. Next Sunday is Christmas. I'm not sure I'll be here or not, so don't sign up for Satsang until late in the evening. And check Facebook first, see if I post on there that I'm not offering Satsang. It all depends on who puts my daughter to bed, whether it's my wife or me. So can we stay with our direct experience? Can we stay with our direct experience? Listen, Justine, I'm happy to teach. I'm always happy to show up. It's just a matter of my family will allow it. And please sign up for the retreat. Don't wait till the last moment, because people always do, and then they don't get the link for some reason, and it kind of messes me up. So sign up beforehand. And so I want you to see if you can notice this radical immediacy which is here all the time. So when you're up in your head and you're thinking and you're commenting, it's hard. You're not experiencing life, you're experiencing thought. You're living in the past, or you're living in the future, or you're living in an argument. When you open the aperture of your perspective, you open the aperture of awareness really wide, you begin to take in so much of life, so much experience. And you see there's just, you experience this radical immediacy because you are so utterly open. I live in this really old house. My God, is the view just incredible. And I walk outside. There's just this massive, it's just this massive mountain that's just coming up out of the earth. And it's not even like relatively speaking, it's not even that like tall of a mountain compared to the other mountains that are around. But it's when I walk outside, I just see just overwhelmed by how big this mountain is. Overwhelmed by how big the sky is. Like right now, how many stars are in the sky. I'm overwhelmed by how many lights there are because I look out like across town and I see like all the lights of town. I'm overwhelmed by how cold it is. I'm overwhelmed how silent it is. And when I look at you all, I'm simultaneously overwhelmed, in the same way as that mountain overwhelms me. Your beauty overwhelms me, your divinity, your holiness. Sometimes I tell people, I say, well, what do you, what do you do? Or sometimes I say I'm a psychologist just because I like that word better than psychotherapist, which is a terrible word. That's my training. And they say, are you judging me? Are you diagnosing me? It's like, no, that's a terrible way to live. And so, the majority of those present, I know quite intimately. But there's not a judgment, there's not a thought that someone is their struggle. So most people speak to me about their struggle, just a little context there. That's confusing. But I don't see people as their struggle. I see them as their divinity. I see you as your divinity, as your holiness. I see the world as holy. Even though I also know it's an evolutionary world. But when you see it, when you experience life as holy, it's a different type of experience when you see life as fundamentally wrong, fundamentally wrong. So the majority of the planet looks out at life. Life is wrong. And so what if we gave up that? If we stopped seeing life as wrong? As wrong. I'm going to read something here. Don is writing something. No question here. Well, Don, I've been responding to your question, I think. Just much gratitude to be here. Jan and I have been with the community of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo for many years, and we're delighted to discover your connection to them. Thank you. Don here, having decided to up my kettlebell snatches from 25 to 45 pounds in one moment, ended up with severe arm pain for nearly 6 months. May your back be pervaded with healing love. May your kettlebell practice be equally filled with love and presence. Yeah. So I have a 20 pounder and then I have a 35 pounder. And so I went from the 20 to the 35. And I think I just overdid it. I overdid it. I think I overdid it. And who is it that overdoes anything anyways? So, okay, let's hear from Catherine. Catherine, are you here?
Hey, everyone. My question is just, I feel like without my judge, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, well, it's a great inquiry. A great inquiry just to look and to see. And again, like try this from the comfort of your home. Like, let's not start this practice after we've had 10 drinks at the nightclub and it's 2 a.m. and we're walking to a dark alley. Like, let's not give up the judge then. Let's do it right now. Right now, if we give ourselves permission not to judge ourselves, or not to judge Craig, not to judge, I don't know who we judge, our parents. Like, do we die? Does death happen? No, like you see, like, oh yeah, like I'm okay if I don't judge this moment. And I want to clarify that I didn't say to give up discernment. I'm inviting us to give up the judge. Judgment arises out of like a neurotic sense of fear or existential fear. And if you play with this, if you play with giving up judgment, what you'll find is your body will relax. And this very quiet, really healthy sense of discernment will be right here. So it's like when you give up judgment, discernment can more fully come online. It can see clearly and it can move from this space of intelligence. And so there can still be a voice of discernment which says, don't touch that, or don't trust him. But there won't be tension in it. There won't be harshness in it. There won't be division in it. There'll be this movement of intelligence, which feels lovely. Which feels lovely. And so it's a transition that I'm inviting. But it starts with just playing. Like, what happens if I just don't judge in this moment? What happens if I let go of judgment? Do I die? It doesn't appear so. It doesn't appear so. And, there's a thought, an egoic thought, that judgment keeps us safe. And To some degree, that's true. Like if we're around a bunch of dangerous characters. But more accurately, discernment keeps us safe. Discernment. And discernment is it's quicker, it's smoother, it's more intelligent than judgment. Like sometimes, our parents hurt us, and then we condemn them, and we shut down for the rest of our life with our parents. And then we live behind this wall of a closed heart. And then we project like that fear of being hurt onto every relationship. This is very common. Most human beings do this. Their parents hurt them. And then they project that hurt and that judgment onto the world. And then you have to live, like the price you pay when you do that is you live in a prison. Where you keep your heart in a jail, your own jail though. Whereas your heart is meant to be open and to experience clearly and fully and overwhelmingly. And your heart will speak up if there is danger. Nope, don't go there. Don't go there. But if you just listen to it, if the heart says no, and you follow that, then your mind will be silent and you just go on living your life with no trouble. But with judgment, we do this thing where we say no because this reminded me of that. And so we say no, 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 no. And the no just goes on forever. And that no creates this wall around us. It cuts us off from experiencing life. From experiencing life. And so I encourage you to play with it. Just like, who would I be without judgment? Without judgment. You certainly will be required to feel more, because judgment often it shuts down feeling, or it just gives us a real heavy, dense, negative feeling in the place of feeling the immediacy of life, the immensity of life. Or we can play with it. Just what is it like just not to judge? But again, to still be wise and discerning. What is it like? Like often with judgment, like someone does something wrong, and we judge them, and then we'll spend like the next 2 weeks hating them. Whereas with discernment, if someone does something wrong, we see like, ouch, like that hurt. We grieve whatever it is that happened in that moment because we're open, and then we don't think about it again. But often, like so much of judgment is someone hurt us once, and then our mind reminds us of that pain for the rest of our life. It's like, my God, that's a lot of thinking or being shut down or being angry at something that happened once upon a time. It's a survival thing that the mind thinks if I continue to remind the individual, if I continue to remind them that this painful thing happened, in theory, then they'll know not to do business with that person, so it won't happen again. But it's a great way just taking this vast aperture and just closing it down to where there's just one response to life, which is no. And unfortunately, what the ego doesn't comprehend is that there's one thing to be hurt, but it's another thing to spend our whole life with our heart shut. That's tremendous pain. I would rather feel something that hurts, grieve it, than to close my heart forever. The closing one's heart forever, like I might call that death. So from one perspective, judgment causes death. It's a death of one's experience. And so anyways, are you willing to play this game of opening and not judging?
Definitely trying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And see, it's going to require to do what you're doing right now. It's going to require that you feel. But again, this is where the ego really gets involved. Says if it doesn't feel good, that means I need to shut down. But that's a great question. It's like, if something doesn't feel good, does that mean I need to shut down? Not necessarily. It may mean you need to walk away from something. Like if there is actual danger, please walk away. But if it's just an emotional feeling, please continue to open and let the feeling work itself out. Let it empty itself out. So all emotions, they resolve themselves if you just let them flow. If you just let them flow. Give it enough time, they come into resolution. And so this requires trust. Go ahead.
I think I'm afraid to do that even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Like if we want to be spiritually awake, we have to be willing to feel everything and just continue to open and feel and open and feel and open and feel. And as we do so, courage comes online, strength comes online, Buddha nature comes online, and then we see that who and what I am is greater than feeling. But if we're unwilling to do this, then the ego will convince us feelings can kill me, feelings can harm me, feelings are too much, I can't handle it, so I have to be small. I have to hide from feelings, I have to repress my feelings. But the awakened one doesn't repress feelings. They feel all of what's here. They don't turn away. Whether it feels good or bad or ugly or whatever, it's this perspective of not turning away. Not turning away. And in the beginning, it seems like it takes great effort. But after you do it just for a little bit, you realize, oh, it's a lot easier just to feel everything in the moment and naturally allow it to release than to carry this damn thing for 5 decades. It's like, oh my God. Some people carry things for 5, 6, 7 decades. Versus just feeling it in the moment and letting it empty. And as you do that, the more empty you are, the more clearly your heart can speak to you. The more clearly discernment, the intelligence of discernment, wisdom will move through you without any thought. And so it takes a little bit of trust. It's like, is it okay to let go of my egoic defense system? Like if there was nothing in its place, you'd be right. Okay, that's dangerous. But we're letting go of the egoic defense system. And we're opening to divine intuition, divine intelligence. We're giving ourselves permission to be guided by something much greater. Much greater. And when we know that, it's like, oh my God, like this is a much greater computer. It's like getting a computer from the future instead of having that old clunky machine from the past. So much more efficient. But for a lot of people, it just scares. it scares the life out of them. It's like, oh my God, I gotta trust in God. It's like, well, if you want to know yourself as God, you gotta trust in yourself. You gotta trust in God. You gotta let go of that old egoic nervous system and trust in something greater. And so, anyways, good to have you, Catherine. Yeah. Okay. Aaron, are you here, Aaron?
I am here. Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, Craig. Hi, everyone. Good to see all of you. Okay. Honestly, I think it's just going to be two quick comments, unless you want to riff. I feel like it kind of connects really nicely with what you talked about today. Is that I'm finding in my own personal journey that as I slow down and make space for what's in me, it transforms all on its own.
Yeah.
Time to do anything.
Yeah.
And that's been really precious. That's been really precious because it's such a like it's a burden released to have the one who's constantly trying to heal and trying to practice radical intimacy, to be able to just go like, oh, it's not something I can do.
Yeah.
And just be really, I can give what's in me lots of space and lots of time. And then it's like, oh, and it just moves.
Yeah.
But that's happening right now. This is happening right now. Yeah. And it's really sweet. And then the other thing that I wanted to say real quick, Craig, is that I love you, and you can come do the dishes at my house anytime. I won't say a thing, and at the end I'll give you a piece of chocolate, dark chocolate, and say thank you. So
Yeah, I'll
I'll
receive
be out there. I live in Denver. I know you're back in Durango. So.
I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep that in mind. Thanks, Aaron. Good
Thank
to
you,
see
Craig.
you.
You too.
Yeah, so beautiful. It's funny, I had that that thought too pop in my mind about it's that willingness to slow down. When you slow down, you become the space of silence, and it just moves through you in an effortless way. And it's one of the real frustrating things about a teaching. Like sometimes someone will complain to me and say, Craig, you say to do all these things, and it can really come off that way. Do this, do that. But really, it's just a stepping back. When you step back, life lives through you, it moves through you, it acts through you. You become the thing you're wanting. You realize, oh, I was always it. I was always it. Just this, like I love old pictures of myself. Again, I just want to just put it up there. And it's just, I always look right into my eyes. You know, when I see an old picture, I was, my God, like those eyes, like that which is shining out of those eyes is the same thing today. And that picture's, I guess that picture's 20 years old, 21 years old. It's that same light. It's that same openness. You know, I could be a nitpicker and say, oh, that picture's pre-realization. But when you see Like when you're willing to stop, like Aaron is inviting it, and you see that realization is here all the time, even when it wasn't here. It has this like funny, like retroactive effect, where it's just like, oh yeah, like that boy was awake. And that baby is awake. That baby's awake. All alive is awake. All alive is awake. Okay. Patrizia, if you put your question, you type it out. And I want you to see if you can give a crystal clear question in the chat. And David, I'm going to see if I can hear from you.
Just a quick commentary, terrible word to use tonight, but anyway, I've been noticing, and even today, really very specifically noticing and talking to myself about how over and over again I will get into the flow, as Catherine would call it, letting it rip. Well, where I'll go and I'll get into these just like intense, flow of kriyas that just become, almost overwhelming, but not. I mean, just but put me on the edge of my physical being so many times, and sometimes, the result of that is, sort of a bit of a daze. But then sometimes I'll find myself being in an intense flow like that with strong kriyas, and then all of a sudden I'll find myself like not there anymore, and I'll find that I'm actually commenting and talking and reasoning and being logical about something, and I'll say, wait a minute, that just stopped all that flow that was just going on a few minutes ago.
That's right.
So that's just a comment that I've been experiencing that directly.
Yeah. Thanks, David. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to notice, and that was one of the instructions that my teacher gave me, is just like, if you find yourself awake, beautiful. And then if you find yourself not awake, like lost in thought, is to stop, to ask oneself, like, what thought am I believing right now? Like, what thought is it that I'm believing right now that's closing the aperture of my experience? What thought? And to really to acknowledge that, to reckon with, to come to like reckoning with that, like, oh, there is something I picked up, and as soon as I picked that up, I stepped into this other world. I stepped into this other world. And so what if I put that world down? What if I stop believing in this thing? Catherine writes, I'm believing that I'm not strong, and that if I don't beat myself up, I won't survive here. Yeah, that's a funny way of saying it. If I don't beat myself up, I won't survive here. I used to live like that, so I'm laughing. Yeah. It's like, what thought did I pick up? Because thoughts, are a gateway to a limited world. And having no thought, or experiencing no thought, or experiencing the space out of which thought arises, is a gateway to a vast world. To a vast world. People use this word a lot, being overwhelmed. I used to walk around just feeling completely overwhelmed by energy all the time, overwhelmed by God, overwhelmed by kundalini, being overwhelmed by trauma, And then I began to just ask, what's here? Noticing the overwhelm. Like, what is that thing? And the one who notices overwhelmed, like, is that one ever overwhelmed? And I realized, oh, there's something here that can't be overwhelmed. I can experience a feeling of overwhelm, but that doesn't mean I am overwhelmed. It just means I'm experiencing a feeling. It's just like a wave that knocks you over. But even the one who's knocked over is still present, is still awake, is still aware, still receiving. And to truly be overwhelmed would be to be dead, to be non-existent. So in a sense, it's impossible to be overwhelmed. Your ego can be overwhelmed. Your nervous system can have lots of sensation all at once. But that which is awake and aware will continue to experience. And I even say this with a smile. We continue to experience even through the doorway of death. And so then it seemed like, God, this thing killed me, but like it killed my body, but did it kill me? No. 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 Okay. Beautiful. Craig, can you speak about the mechanisms of unconscious misuse of spiritual teachings and superimposition of them on life? Yeah, I mean, that will just happen out of fear. That will happen. That happens because of fear. So people use all kinds of philosophies to avoid life. And so, like, one great philosophy we have is perspective is we have the game of the right, we have the game of the left. You know, and we use our left politics to make sense of the world and to defend and guard against the world. We use our right-wing politics to defend and guard against the world. We use spiritual teachings to defend and guard against the world. We use scientific knowledge and understanding and the scientific method you know, to guard against life. And to me, it's hilarious. I mean, the unconscious part is it's just fear. It's like humans use ideas as a way to guard and protect themselves from experiencing life because they're afraid. Because they're afraid. And so if we go back like to that conversation I had with Catherine, the conversation with David, are we willing to feel everything and continue to be open? To be unguarded, undefended? When we're totally willing to be unguarded and undefended, we're not projecting spiritual teachings on life. And to truly be spiritually awake, we don't want there to be any wall, any thought, any philosophy, any teaching between us and life. And there's this old Buddhist saying, parable, I can't remember what you call it, story. It's something like, you know, like the Buddha said, like, hey, like if you ever meet me on the road, you know, get out your sword and kill me. You know, what he was meaning by that is like if you're walking on the path, you see the Buddha, Don't get all enamored of the Buddha and the Buddha's life, and the Buddha's life story, and all the Dharma and the dogma and all that that's behind the Buddha. Get out the sword and kill him, and stay in the freshness and the aliveness of this moment. Don't make anything special out of the Buddha. Do what the Buddha is doing. See the hugeness of reality. The hugeness of reality. In a Christian way, like this is what's meant by like this whole thing around idol worship. Like what the hell's that in the Bible about idol worship? It's like, don't waste your time worshiping an idol, a rock, a statue, or something. Open your experience directly and fully to the hugeness of this moment. And in order to stay open, you have to be willing to feel. The people who hide behind spiritual teachings are people who are afraid of feeling. They're afraid of experiencing. They're afraid they'll be overwhelmed by another human being, by the experience of life. And so they hide in their egoic nature. Patrizia, that's a beautiful question. Beautiful question. I almost feel the point of healing is to get to the realization that we don't need to heal. Yeah, that's really good, Tom. Yeah. Yeah, so true. So true. Alex writes, dropping ego defenses and trusting, very relevant to me. Thank you. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, I think we did it, everyone. So good to see you. I'm not sure I'll see you Sunday. Hopefully I'll see you Wednesday. So there'll be 2 groups this week. There's the Kundalini group on Wednesday, and then there's Wednesday evening meditation. Please come. Please sign up for the retreat. Please notice and pay attention to the energies of the retreat, which will come early. They'll probably start showing up. Maybe Wednesday night. I mean, I feel them right now, but for you, you might feel them Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. Keep in mind, many of you are going to be with friends, family on Christmas. Family can be very hard and difficult to be with. And sometimes the energies of grace, the energies of retreat will put a little pressure on your nervous system, heat things up a little bit. Sometimes it'll bring up a little bit of drama. And just know that that's normal. That's normal. And your job, even if you fail, if you say the wrong thing or have a blow up with a family member or whatever, show up to the retreat. Just show up anyways. If you find yourself feeling, we'll have a little fun here. I don't know. Some people I imagine might drink on Christmas, but if you find yourself fat and hungover on Christmas morning, show up to the retreat. I hope that's not any of us, but sometimes we're just hungover on cookies and too many gingerbread cookies. It was sugar hangover. Just show up. If your mind makes an excuse, just show up. Just show up. You'll be very happy that you did. So let us all open without any walls. Let us open. Let us shine our love in every direction. Without end. Without end. Good night, everyone. See you all soon.